Hey guys, Waterfowler41, and today we are installing an extremely awesome product. I'm pretty excited about this one. I've been waiting for these for a while and been waiting for the weather to cooperate with me. But we're finally installing our bumper shells from Ecoological. Basically what these are is they are an ABS plastic shell that clips on and adheres over your stock chrome bumper. So this is one of, I'll say, three main, one of three primary ways people are getting rid of the chrome on their truck. So you can go with the shell, you can go with powder coating, or you can go with wrapping it in vinyl. In my case, I have the brown GMC. It's a really hard color to color match with powder coat or vinyl, so this was a great option. But basically what this is an ABS shell that clips on over and uses all the factory mounting points, or it tucks underneath trim pieces in order for this stuff to fit, slip underneath there, and basically look stock on your truck. So I ordered the front and the rears. I picked these up to the GM truck group buy that we did. So here is the front. So basically it's 3 shells per bumper, it looks like. So we got the corner shell, so that's where our fog light housing is. We got the center, and then we have the other corner. Same with the rears. So these just clip on over the stock chrome bumpers, and they fill in and cover up all of the chrome. And they give you a couple pieces of blackout tape just to make sure you're getting all the pieces of chrome away. But just to give you a general idea, so here's our stock chrome bumper. And the reason why I'm getting rid of I want to get rid of the stock chrome bumper is because I went with darker wheels, and in my opinion the chrome bumper and chrome running boards just really stick out, kind of an eyesore. So with those darker wheels I wanted to start blacking out the rest of the truck. So soon we'll be running boards, but for now we're working on the bumpers. So this is the front middle piece. This will go on after you put on the sides, but I wanted to get you an idea how these fit. So essentially what it does is it uses factory trim pieces to basically hold onto your truck, and then there's adhesive on the back that adheres right to the chrome. So it's gonna look pretty sweet when we're done. There's the adhesive on the back. And it doesn't require too crazy of tools. So in our case with the GMC, we're gonna need to first remove the outer 5 or 6 bolts on the lower valence here, and then we're gonna use trim pieces, or trim tools, so these plastic trim tools, to pop up the trim panels so we have enough room to slip everything underneath there without scratching the metal. I'm also going to use a heat gun because it's about 60 degrees right now, and adhesive works really good when it's warm. So we're going to give it a quick blast each time before we install it, just to make sure everything adheres fully. So the rears, if you have the GMC with the step bumper, you see that on the shell itself it's got that little tongue there, and that ultimately in the end will cover up. It'll tuck underneath the trim and cover up the chrome piece, so it'll look pretty slick here. So we're going to start on the front because it looks relatively easy on the front, and then we'll move to the rears. So like I said, each bumper is 3 pieces. My version does not have parking sensors or traffic sensors or anything like that, so you don't see the holes for those sensors. However, you can buy them with the holes popped in there. But again, I got a regular SLE, so it's pretty baseline. The only thing I have is the fog lights. So they do give you good instructions talking about the blackout tape. So we'll start with we'll start with prepping the bumper, and then we'll go ahead and start the install. Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to do is start prepping it. And I wanted to show you one thing before I start going full bore with the installation. One of the reasons why, I'll say one of 2 most recent reasons why I wanted to put bumper shells on my truck is this right here. So basically what we're looking at here is rust. This is the first time I've ever had a truck with a chrome bumper, and the rust is coming in kind of heavy here. So we're going to clean it up a little bit, and then we'll cover it up with the bumper. And then in the rear, I did recently accidentally bump something in the parking garage. I bumped the column, and it left a little bit of a dimple there. Nothing to change the whole, nothing to really deform the bumper too much. But it's irritating to see it, so with the bumper shells, they'll definitely cover it up. But like I said, the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to clean up the bumper real good. I just got a car wash, so I got all the big stuff off, so I'm going to go through and get all the finite stuff off. After cleaning it with a mild cleaner here, the next thing we're going to do is wipe everything down with isopropyl just to really clean it up and make sure we got a good surface to bind down on. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and lower this valance here. I think it's 5 or 6 bolts on each side is all we need to remove. That way when we pull that down, we can clean underneath there as well. Alright, so like I said, the first thing we're going to do is drop that valance on each side. So it's a 10mm socket, and do yourself a huge favor and get yourself some ratcheting wrenches like this. The bolts themselves are a little kind of a pain in the butt to get to with a regular socket, but if you have the ratcheting wrench, it's thin, it's low profile, and give you the ability to kind of reach right in there. So let's do that real quick here. Okay, so I know that the instructions say to remove the outer couple of bolts. I think it's 5 or 6 bolts, but if you do that on both sides, it really leaves you with 2 bolts left. So I just went ahead and took off the whole valance for a couple reasons. One, it was easier, and that way I don't have a valance hanging down and getting in my way. And 2, I wanted to see what the truck looked like without it on. So the next thing we're going to do is clean up the bumper really good, get all these dead bugs off there from the winter, and then we're going to take that blackout tape and we're going to put that on. And basically where that blackout tape goes is, I believe, right here. So they give you enough to cover this whole turn here. So we're going to go ahead and install that. But again, we're going to clean it first with the kind of a mild detergent that's not going to leave a residue here, and then we're going to take some isopropyl and wipe everything down to make sure everything's nice and clear for the adhesive. And then we're going to blast it with a heat gun, test fit everything, and then put everything on. But with the front bumper, you start on the sides, so you do both the sides, and then you end it with the centerpiece, and that centerpiece is what covers up the trim right here. So it's the 2 sides, then the centerpiece, then you're good to go. So I test fitted most of it for the most part, and everything fits great, so I don't think we're going to have any issues. I do think with the Line-X though, it makes the trim pieces a little bit fatter, so it is going to be a tighter fit in some of the areas, not necessarily here, but definitely if we got to tuck in any over here or on the rear bumper, it's going to be a little bit more of a pain in the butt. But I don't think it's going to be too big of an issue. So let's clean the bumper, let's wipe it down with alcohol, and then let's go ahead and start installing the bumper shells. Before you do anything, the bumper should be the cleanest you've ever seen the bumper from the day you bought it. So make sure everything's off there, because again, these bumper shells rely on adhesive, and if you're giving it a pretty crappy surface to stick onto, don't expect them to stick very well. The fronts are a little bit different because they actually use bolts underneath to attach to the bumper, and they're using this big lip here, so I don't think you're going to have an issue there. But with the rears, it's really important that you're giving adhesive a really good surface to stick onto. So the next thing we're going to do is install this blackout tape that they gave us. So essentially, that tape will cover up this little intersection here. So this last little lip of chrome before you get to the plastic, we want to tape that up. So we want that tape to tuck really well in there, and we want it to come around this turn all the way to here. I test fitted the bumper. I don't think you really need it. I'm going to put it on there just to be safe. But there's a couple things that go on here. So we need to do the straight section here. So we'll go all the way down to the bottom. And then we need to cut little slits in here so that tape can make this turn without it getting all scrunched up. So basically where this fold is about as far, well, a little bit before it, until you get to here. So what we'll do is we'll cut it a couple different slits here, probably 3 or 4, just to make sure that we could do that turn pretty cleanly. Alright, so we got our blackout tape on both sides, so we're going to start with test fitting everything. And just to give you an idea, here's the adhesive that you're going to be looking to adhere to the bumper. So also keep the locations of adhesive in mind, because when you're cleaning, obviously you want the whole bumper clean, but you want these particular areas a heck of a lot cleaner because you want them to adhere. So the bumper itself, or the shell itself, this lip here tucks underneath the top, and then the bottom is what attaches to in between the bottom valance and the bumper. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, these 4 tabs line up perfectly. You know, when everything's lined up with the holes underneath, you put the bolt through the valance, through here, through the bumper, and you're good to go. So let's go ahead and test fit it. But again, this is your fog light housing. If you had the sensors, the park sensors, you'd obviously have the holes here. So this tucks around the corner of the fender on the inside. So what we're going to do is tuck it up underneath there, tuck it up underneath there. And what I found is when you put it on, you want to push it this way to line up all the holes. And really use your fog light housing as kind of a guide here. But it fits perfectly. And you really can't mess it up because of how it's grooved around the edge of the bumper here. You want it to hug that tightly, and if it hugs that tightly, everything else should line up perfectly. So like I said earlier, I thought that the blackout tape was kind of a just kind of a conservative approach to it. I don't think we needed it because these fit so good. But underneath, all the tabs line up perfectly. So what we're going to do then is go ahead and apply this one. So this is pressure sensitive tape, so you got to be real careful with it. We're going to blast the bumper real quick with the heat gun just to warm it up, make sure everything sticks good. But once I do that, pull off all the red backing on the tape and we're good to go to apply. Well, before I install this, I just want to point out a couple pointers. When you're lining it up, there's 3 points that you want to make sure are lined up. First, you want to make sure that this portion is tucked around the edge of your bumper. So that's the first one. That's kind of where you start with installing it. Then the second one is you want to make sure that you're not seeing any chrome around your fog light housing. And then the third point is right here. So you want to make sure that when you're installing this, you're picking up the bumper and you're basically pushing the shell up. You want the shell as high as possible because you want it to sit up on top of this plastic trim here. And then you just go ahead and push everything down and install, and you're good to go. Alright, so like I said, before we apply it, I'm just going to blast this with heat to give it something warm for all the adhesive to tie into, and then we're going to start installing it. I test fitted this about 1,000 times. Kudos to Ecoological. This is a pretty well built product, and the fact that it lines up without any modifications is pretty good. So let's go ahead and start hitting it with heat. So we'll start pulling off all the tape here. Since it took me a while, go ahead and hit everything one more time. Alright, let's do it. Remember, you do that corner. You want to, like I said, you want to take the bumper before you adhere everything. You want everything pulled up towards the inside of the truck. And if you line up those 3 areas, so you line up this top corner around the fog light and right here, then you're golden. Then everything on the bottom will line up as well. So I think we're good. So here we go. The bottom's all lined up. Everything's on. Damn, that looks sweet. And holy crap, this tape really sticks. Alright, so that's it. I'm really excited about that. That looks sweet. So you don't see a bit of chrome. That is badass. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the driver's side now, and then I'll get back with you when we do the centerpiece, because the centerpiece is what ties everything together. But overall, damn, that is sweet. Very excited. Alright guys, so we got the driver's side on, and now we're going to work on the centerpiece and finish up the front bumper. So the way the centerpiece goes on, it's just adhesive. This one doesn't use any of the bolts like the front corners do, but it just tucks underneath here, and then adheres on. And there's a cutout on the bottom, and that cutout fits in between here, basically your license plate housing. So there's also notches on each of the bumpers. So this bumper, or this cover, will lay right up onto that edge there. So that way it's kind of idiot proof, you know, make sure everything's lined up. So we're going to, just make sure my license plate's not in the way. We're going to go ahead and wipe everything down, heat it up again just like we did with the sides, and then we're going to install. And then the front bumper's done, and I will say right now, by far of all the upgrades I've done on my channel, this is my favorite. I think this looks the best. I'm really happy with how well this turned out. Sure here, but let me go ahead and start heating everything up, and then we'll install. We got to be careful on these because we got a lot of plastic on both sides. So maybe I'll hit it with low heat, just to make sure I'm not warping anything. And even warm heats, or low heat's pretty hot. Take the adhesive off here, and then we'll give it one more blast. We'll be good to go. Alright, remember it only slips underneath the top here, and then it sits in these grooves on each side of the main cover. So we're gonna put the top in. Oops. You can also use down here to kind of line you up. There we go. Oh, I see why they have you put that tape there. It's for the bottom there. Okay, so yeah, there's a little bit here. If you didn't put that tape there, you'd definitely see this, but honestly, it's a moot point. And that is on. Alright, let's sit back and admire the work. So there's the whole bumper. So you got the passenger side, you got your middle piece which holds everything together, and then the side. That looks sweet. Very happy with it. Now I gotta get a new grill. Awesome. Let's start the rear. Alright guys, so we're going to start the rear bumper here. So to save some time, I already went ahead and cleaned it. And then I also installed the two little strips of gap tape that they give you. And those two little strips go right here on the front. And the reason they do that is because the shell itself doesn't cover or doesn't attach underneath trim all the way to the tip. So in order to make sure that all the chrome is hidden, see there's a lip. In order to make sure that all that chrome is hidden, they give you this gap tape, again just like the front, to make sure you're covering that piece up. So this is significantly easier to install versus the front because it's a smaller piece. But basically all it does is just cover in that gap here. As far as test fitting the rears, I did test fit them already, and they are a little bit more difficult to put on, but there's a trick to it. So once you get them underneath here and underneath the first turn, the whole shell itself easily slips up in here. But getting it under here is kind of a pain in the butt, but with the right trim tools, so have a couple of these around, using the right trim tools, you could definitely pop everything in there and it fits nice and snug. So what I do like about these things is the finished edge on here. I didn't realize that they had these things, because they put a nice rubber lip on the inside here, which is the portion that goes over the step. So you got that rubber little edging there, and what that does is goes right in this gap here, and it gives it a nice clean finished look. So just like the front, we're going to go ahead and heat up everything. We're going to pull off the red backing on the shell itself and install it. So just like the front, the sides go on first, and then the middle is basically a closer, and the middle tucks underneath this piece of trim, whereas the sides tuck underneath the license plate side and in here. And then as you're installing it, you're basically using the trim to guide you, but this is going to be your kind of guiding factor here. So you want to make sure that everything is cleared good around this thing, and then you should be good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and heat up everything, pull the red tape off. Like I said, the test fit perfect, so we're good to go to install and everything's clean. So let's rock and roll and get the back end finished up. Alright, so here we go. We're going to start heating it up and then we're going to install. A lot more flat area on the rear bumper, so we're going to take our time with the heat and definitely warm everything up quite a bit. Alright, I think we're good. Let's do it. So the first thing we're going to want to do, make sure it's tucked in underneath here. So you got this lip here. All this stuff needs to go under first. I guess you could do it without panels, or without remove trim tools. Just kind of hugs everything all the way up until there. So before pushing everything down, you want to make sure everything is pushed up against the top here, because there's no turning back once this stuff is cinched down. So once we do that, we're good with everything. Then we could go ahead and start pushing everything down like that. Let's see here. And we also want to make sure that the trim's going this way as far as possible. So we want to push it towards the outside, kind of pull it much of it to that corner as possible. Oh, there goes my seat. Alright, so we're underneath our trim panels. I think we're good to go to start wrapping it. So we're going to start here, and we're going to go like that. That way we pull everything down, everything seats down properly. Nice. Alright, so it doesn't pop that up too much. I mean, probably a little bit, but I'm sure over time it'll be fine. Nice trim piece, so it looks nice and finished here. So you got the corner here. It does pop out just a smidgen, but your tab, everything pulls in. After that, everything sits flush. And really the piece that kind of governs everything is this turn here. So that S turn right there, got here and here, really helps you position everything up and in there. So we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and do the passenger side now, and then we'll get back to the middle. So just like the front one, you have a centerpiece here, and this centerpiece is going to tuck underneath here and then hold everything together, and it's got a lip here that will go up on top of each piece. So let me do the passenger side and then we'll get back with you. Alright, so we got the driver's side and passenger side on. Now the last thing we got to do is pop in the centerpiece here. So basically how this goes on is there's a big lip and then there's notches. That notch follows the bumper line here, and then the lip itself tucks underneath here. So what I found with this stuff is once you get it underneath in one area, and maybe because the line, or whatever liner this is that they spray on it, is got some slipperiness to it. Once you get it underneath one section, the whole section just slides in. So again, this is sort of idiot proof. This ends up right in between the two pieces, and it's got a lifted area for it to go over each of the two side pieces. So we know we got those down and good on that side. All we gotta do is heat this area, pull the tape off, and then install. Alright, so we got everything cleaned up. I test fitted. You gotta be quiet. We got everything cleaned up. I test fitted it, so I'm gonna go ahead and blast it with some heat to make it tacky, and then we already pulled off the red backing and everything, and this should be the last piece to clean up everything. So just like the front, the middle piece has notches, and it's made to go over the edges to kind of give it a finished look. So let's get it hot here. Everything else should slip up into place. So let's go ahead and do that.
Are you all done there?
Nope. Almost done, buddy.
Okay.
Hot, don't touch the button. Don't touch. Right.
Are you almost done, Dad?
Easy, buddy. Patience, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go. Push it on. Go. Push it on. As hard as you can.
Done.
Keep going. All right, watch out, watch out, watch out. What do you think? Does that look awesome?
Mm-hmm. What's this?
Can I get a high five? Don't touch. We good? Is it installed? All done?
Yeah. Now,
What do you tell the video?
Thanks for watching.
One more time.
Thanks for watching.